All right. Let's go. Look at Phumi. She's putting on her makeup as we start. Her lipstick's on. She's ready to go.
Hey, it was touch and go here this morning. Touch and go. Never know which stage of load shedding you are in. Wake up in the dark, go to bed in the dark.
I know. It's ridiculous.
And some
It's
of us
ridiculous.
can't get away with that. You can't get away with the you haven't even put on the lipstick.
I know. I mean, if I don't put on my makeup, it's a
If you
disaster.
don't put if you don't put on that lipstick, Gareth, don't know if we could look at you.
I know, it's frightening. Um, we have quite a lot to do today. I mean, we're still not in the new studios, and it was expected that it would still be another week, but we may actually be on there sort of middle of next week if all goes well, and that could be very good. So we will be doing shows live from our studio again soon, which is very exciting. So there's a lot
Yay.
happening. I mean,
Yay.
only the second day of February, and we're already kicking ass and taking names. So lots to get into.
Yeah, you know what? It is only the second day of February. It feels like it's been a long year, guys.
Right?
Tigers in the streets.
Oh my God. I mean,
Like,
you know, for 1 month, 2023 is already delivered. We thought Tiger King was a big deal when that came on in 2020, but when you actually have real live tigers on the streets, I again
do
have
you?
to ask the question, like,
Yeah.
why on earth are there people keeping these animals as pets?
More importantly, why are we more worried about pit bulls than tigers?
So funny. We were sitting in it. Well, I don't know. We should be maybe. There are more pit bulls around than tigers, but
So you think?
well, maybe yeah, maybe not. Maybe there are more tigers. I was sitting in a meeting yesterday, and one of the people in the meeting said that her helper was early to work the other day. So she said to her, "Why are you here early?" So she said, "Mm-mm, there's a tiger on the loose, and I'm not taking any charges." she was so she said as soon as she'd explained that the tiger had been killed, that it had been captured and had been shot and everything, then this woman started coming back to work late.
No,
So she wasn't worried anymore. So it wasn't a motivating factor.
no, except you would think that she would come in later if there's a tiger on the loose
Mhm.
because then you don't want to be out in the street by yourself. You want to have like
Especially
other people around you, just people you can run faster than. You don't have to run
exactly,
faster than the tiger. The tiger must get the other people, not you.
and especially first thing in the morning when it's still dark. I mean,
Yes, yes.
yeah, you catching a taxi at like 4:30 a.m. That's when tigers attack. I've been told. You know.
Listen, there's tigers in the streets. There's no electricity. There's blue water coming out of the
Yeah,
taps. There's
let's just talk about this blue water thing. You haven't. Someone said it's a joke. It's the
so
internet. It's
so
bullshit. In fact,
this
Joburg water.
the
Yeah,
blue water coming out of the tap was actually at my brother's house. So
really.
the tweet was my brother's wife. She initially
Oh,
sent a little video of the water because she sent the video of herself holding the glass, and I was like, "Meh, what is this?
hmm.
It's it's the end of January. We're not nearly at the April Fool stage." And she was like, "No, it came out of the water." And then she sent a video with the tap, with the glass and the water coming out of the tap,
Yes,
filling up into the glass and going blue. This was
right.
so the picture that everybody sees of the glass, of the hand and the glass, that's my brother's wife.
Yes. Oh wow. So you can vouch that she's not making it up. That it's not bullshit because Joburg Water apparently came on and said, no, this is nonsense. There's nothing that you can do to water to make it that color. So
So Joburg Water did come out to her house, to their flat, and they live in a block of flats,
hmm,
and everybody else had no water in the flat. Joburg Water came out. They took the water. They took samples of the water to test it. Is it drinkable? What's going on? Yeah. So this is her hand. This is her tap.
wow, wow.
um, And what they eventually said is that there seems to be a problem with the piping because there's no water in the pipe, that this water is probably backwashing from their bathroom cistern, because this blue color is the, like the J's fluid or whatever, the J's thing that
Yes.
you put in it's backwashing into the tap system. So then they had, because it's a new block of flats that they live in, so then they had the people who did the plumbing in the block of flats.
Mhm.
But yeah,
But yeah,
still not
it's real.
Resolved. It's
But
real.
it's
It's
real.
real.
Wow. Holy shit. Huh. The only time I've ever seen, and I've got a chemical laboratory, the only time I've ever seen water that color blue is copper sulfate.
That is initially what the Joburg water people had said, that it might be the copper piping. And I was like, I don't know. But anyway,
Jesus. Would you drink that?
definitely not. And their big worry was, as you know, they have a 3-month-old little baby.
Uh-oh.
So having no water is,
Mm-mm.
but they are those people. They are those people who have the water coolers, those, like, they've always been the
Oh,
people who have. And
okay.
I've always been like, listen, Joburg's got the best water in the world. What's your
Well, speaking of the best water in the world, the one thing that is still missing from our new digs is a coffee machine. And you know, I don't want to say that I'm a coffee aficionado or an expert of any kind, but I have rather got used to drinking my bean to cup coffee, which I have to tell you makes all that stuff that Jane makes at the studio horrible. It makes it taste. I call them cruel coffees. You take She takes instant coffee, puts it in hot water, and I mean, for anyone who's got used to this, that is like drinking that blue water, really.
coffee?
So, what do you
It's
recommend? I mean,
what I
let's because it is a big deal, and we mostly have all of our meetings and our guests, and we do our show early in the morning. That's when you need the coffee. Am I
coffee is
right?
a coffee is an important ingredient to what makes life happy,
So,
in
who
my
do you
view.
think? Who do you think makes the best coffee, and who do you think we should talk to first? Because we need to get this thing put in ASAP. It's one of the things I left on the cutting room floor when we started with the studio build and everything else, and now I'm upset that I left it so long. So I need quick answers. Pumi, who do you
Ooh.
suggest?
So Illy, I think, makes really good coffee. Places that have Illy coffee, I really love. But I don't know if they've got like coffee machines. And everybody
No,
now has. We have a little Nespresso machine here at our office because there's not a lot of people.
right?
And those pods, even though I feel like those pods are like
They're hugely
eh, they're hugely expensive, but also like all that, like, waste, if you just one little pod, you
yeah.
throw it out every time. But the coffee is good. So
So
the
you go
Nespresso, because there's also lots of different types. You don't have to use Nespresso brand. And there's like,
right.
at home they have a whole lot of like varieties of coffees. So they have the Colombians and the Kenyans and all of that, but they also have flavored coffee, like
Yeah.
caramel.
I used to have one of those Nespresso machines. In fact, I think it's still in one of the boxes there at the studio. So I could always pull that out of
No,
mothballs.
but you need at the studio we need a proper one. We need like a almost industrial size machine,
Yeah,
because there's
because
a lot of people
right, right,
coming in
exactly.
and out, and you're gonna put Nespresso is good for your home, but I have no coffee machine at my house. I only
Slippery Pickle
drink.
says you need a coffee machine. You need that thing that makes a heart in the froth with a minimum wage barista.
That is the minimum wage barista that makes the heart in the coffee.
Producer Ryan is angling. He's like, "Can we get Starbucks?" I don't think.
Listen, Starbucks is very expensive. You can get Starbucks pods, but they've got a premium for that. name, hey?
Nespresso Recycle, which is, I suppose, part of what you were worried about there, Phumi. And Captain Cook says Breville, but I think they also, that's those huge ones that, you need. They're almost like it looks like the size of an engine.
Like you'd have to send Jane for training.
Yeah, no. That's way too. Listen, and those things, if something goes wrong there, you need to like order parts from Italy and Jesus, no.
No.
We need something. I reckon something like bean to cup that can be cleaned every day, that can be restocked with, not outrageous.
What we also have here at the office is we have a little hand grinder. And sometimes when we're feeling ourselves, we have like different types of coffee beans that you can mix yourself and then grind the coffee. It's like a little ritual. Grind the coffee and then in a plunger, because that's also good. Like a good plunger is also. But there's, at this, because there's a nice big kitchen at the thing, we can also get one of those, those Portuguese like little coffee pots that has the bottom thing and.
But that's too complicated. You see again.
That is easy.
No, you want to press a button, and all you must put in is water and beans, and you must press a button, and it must make this little espresso. I'm happy.
Carl says they have 3 Siemens machines. 3, Carl. How many people are at your office?
Wow. And he says you don't have to spend more than 12K on one machine or on 3. Yeah. So Justice says Simpiwe went on a coffee shop spree the other day, and she was tasting coffees and did a vlog. So maybe we must just talk to Simpiwe about it. No, really, I'll talk to her on the show tomorrow about it. She probably knows.
That is a clever little vlog.
Okay.
Is Lavazza still a thing? Yes, it is. Somewhere, in some places.
Oh, Lavazza is that's just a huge, that's the best, right? That's Italian. Again, it looks like, but it's almost like an art installation, that machine. You know what I mean? It's got like pipes that come out of it. It looks like a Ferrari engine from the 1940s. I suppose it's meant to look like that, maybe. But I've got in my kitchen here, I've got a Philips bean to cup machine, which is just magic. And you get lots of different beans from Kenya and from Ethiopia and from Costa Rica and Guatemala. It's good stuff. So that's what I want.
So we also get a big thing of mixed pods from Take a Lot. And there's like a world one, and there's like 4 different types of coffee pods in there. Like the red one is from Colombia, the purple one is from Tanzania, all of that kind. The problem with that though is some of them are not that great, and you're just like now you've got there's 25 of these not so great ones, really bitter ones, and
oh no,
maybe but you're like trying different things out. Coffee, guys. Coffee. I am giving up a lot of stuff. I'm giving up meat. I'm trying to give up sugar, but I am clear. I have had to give up drinking for health reasons, not for anything else. And I'm clear that I'm not giving up coffee, because if I have to give up alcohol, meat, sugar, and coffee, then there's no point living.
I agree. Why be so miserable? These people. You're gonna, so you might live to 120, okay? But what a horrible life you're gonna have. 120 years of misery.
Why would you want that?
I'd rather have 80 to 85 years of joy and happiness and excitement and having nice food and nice drink and nice coffee. Come on, please. I shared this. Let me just see if I could put this up on here, because this guy, I don't know who he is, but I loved it. I shared it on my Instagram yesterday. Don't know if you saw him.
No, let me look. You're going to put it up.
I'm going to put it up on here. Yeah, he made me so happy. I'll show you. Just because we often talk in the show about whether or not we think that, we may be, as South Africans, binge drinking alcoholics. And there's evidence to show that that's more than likely. But I saw this and I suddenly thought, you know what? That doesn't sound so bad, actually. There are
So
worse things.
Sandile saying here, what kind of Zulu am I that doesn't eat meat? A miserable one, Sandile. That's what I am.
Yeah, correct. A miserable, miserable Zulu that doesn't eat nyama. Horrible for me. So, all right, before I show you that video, because I'm just sending it from my phone. I don't know how to do this any quicker. A couple other comments on the coffee. Yeah, so this is a bit. I mean, someone's trying to make me sad about this, but there was an expose, Jenny says on Al Jazeera, the little children who get to farm coffee. I don't care about the little children farming the coffee. I just want the coffee. I'm not worried if it's someone
I
else's
saw
child who's
that. I
yeah.
saw that expose. I saw that, and it's also on
And
YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. It's sad. It's terrible. It's all of those things. But if that's the cost of getting the coffee, I'm
yeah, I don't
sorry.
care. Yeah.
And you know what, Jenny? So it does make me feel it makes me feel because it's the chocolate, it's the sneakers, it's the. But actually, the problem is more than just the coffee. The problem is the entire system of how we get what we get and how we get it cheaply and how we get it, how we end up with 500 pairs of sneakers in your cupboard and all of that stuff. It's all exploitative to somebody somewhere down the line. So until we change the way the whole world works,
We can't
some
help
evil.
everybody, but I need coffee in the morning. Someone else's child has to pull it off the plants. I'm sorry. You'll have other health problems if you cut out meat. You will lose your hair, Phumi, says Nico. Very important. So don't give up
What?
meat.
I'm already losing my hair. Don't tell me that. I'm just
Bastana says,
listen.
I will not give up Chardonnay. Everything else I'm prepared to let go.
Listen, that is it's one of the hard ones. So
Yeah.
I really like bubbly. I really like Pinot Noir. I like wine. I really like wine. And it's hard. So like I can have one glass or two glasses a week or maybe 2 weeks, but I feel it. So I feel the pain afterwards. I am leaving the sugar, but I had a chocolate last night.
Yonda says coffee has great qualities and actually has been debunked for being bad for you. It helps with heart diseases, Alzheimer's, as well as inflammatory diseases. Yeah, but I mean, like
It
everything.
also helps with happiness.
Yeah, and energy, which frankly you need first thing in the morning, right? But again, we're not giving health advice on this show. I just think everything in moderation when it comes to the stuff. Like if you're having 8 coffees a day, you realize you could be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's too much.
I'm only having 2.
Well, then that's fine. Don't beat yourself up about it. And anyone who says to you, no, you must give up even those 2, then they just don't want you to have any joy in your life. That's all.
Producer says, Producer Ryan says, why is there no drive-through coffee joint except KFC or McDonald's?
Very good question, actually. Ryan, now that I think about it, that is an excellent question. And Phumi, you were asking, I think just the other day you brought it up, and we haven't spoken about it yet, but why are there no drive-through convenience stores? What's that?
Wouldn't that be wonderful to be able to just like drive through on the one side, just tell them I need like milk, eggs, whatever,
Right.
and then pay on the other side. Just don't have to stop, park your car,
I do
get
think,
out.
I mean, like you do on Uber Eats, you can ask for groceries. They will bring you milk and bread and that kind of thing if you need it. I've never used that, but I believe it's very good.
Listen,
do that, right?
So there's the Checker 60 is one of the best ones. It really is one of the best ones. Yeah. But you can only get so many things, right? But it's just, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to drive through and not have to stop and get out of your car and find the 2 rand or the 5 rand to give to the car guard to
Right. Too much. It's exhausting and we don't have time, right, Phumi? We don't have time.
People are busy. It's also because I saw the thing about the Amazon store, because there's now that everybody is talking AI and kind of like that walk through the store, you pick up all of the stuff and you walk out, and it reads as you scan all of what you're picking up, and it from your
Right.
Apple Pay or whatever, you don't have to talk to anyone. You just walk through the store, pick up all the things you want, and walk out the store. And it all
Yeah, it
happens.
scans you. I'm not sure I like that idea, frankly. I'm not
Why?
sure that makes me happy. Well, because first of all, they're taking there's surveillance, and they've got your face on their database. I don't know. Someone could hack your identity, make a mask. Who knows? I'm
It's
just not comfortable
happening.
with. You think we're
Listen,
already past? I just got to give
we're,
up.
we're,
The fight's
that
lost.
we're not going to stop that. We're not going to stop that. We're already there. We are already
Okay.
there. When I try and kind of, when it says when you download a new app or whatever, or update an app, and it says track across all other, and you're like, no, no, no.
Really?
Obviously, I have not clicked no on my Steers app. As you all know, Kaneko's favorite thing in the world is the Wacky Wednesday. And so
Yeah.
usually I get on Wednesday mornings, I'll get a message from the Steers app saying, don't forget, it's Wednesday. But I've been tweeting about my no meat. I've been tweeting about like it's it's only been like a week. I think I'm on day 10 of not eating meat. And I tweeted about it a couple of times. And yesterday I got a message from the Steers app saying, it's Wacky Wednesday and you can try our meat-free options. So like, yeah,
Yeah. You see,
this is where we are.
I'm yeah. You got to be careful. This marketing that lives in your world, it comes into your world and then it stays there, and you can't get it out. I don't know if I like that. I'm not sure if I'm all for that. But what I did want to say is, and Ryan's reminded me, if you want to send your voice notes to us about the coffee and what suggestions you have, we want to hear from you. Let us know. Drop us a voice note. It's very easy to do. 0717836214. That
And
is our
while we're
WhatsApp
talking
line.
voice notes, if you're watching on YouTube,
Yes.
do the right
Then you
thing.
must like and subscribe. And here's a voice note from Barry, who is blind and wants to deal with MASH, who made a comment about blindness being an excuse. No, listen to this. We don't shirk our responsibilities here on the show. Here's Barry. Listen.
Morning, guys. I listened to this morning show. This is Tuesday's day now. You were talking about Mash's friend who is temporarily blind, and Mash were going on about being blind, and you've got an excuse to do nothing.
Uh-huh.
Now that's bullshit. I'm blind. I work with the police. I'm a operator. I studied law. I've done quite a few things that I don't think a few of my sighted pals have done. I've flown an airplane. I've done skydiving.
Huh.
And I've got friends who are into all kinds of other, well, also blind physios and journalists. So, bullshit. Nice day, bye.
Love it. I
He's
just want to
also
know how.
flown a plane, which Mash has never done.
Yeah, I wouldn't fly. Barry, I love you lots, but there's no way I'm flying with a blind pilot. I'm sorry. Skydiving. Imagine that. Whew, I wonder if it's as big a thrill if you can't see like how close the ground is as you get closer and closer to it.
I don't think the thrill is in the getting closer to the ground. I think the thrill is in the sensation of falling.
Oof. Yeah.
That's the thrill is actually in the sensation of falling and the air
Maybe
rushing past you.
Maybe it's more scary because you can't see. You have no. I don't know. I mean, it's fascinating to me. So Barry just correcting us there and making us aware of the fact that as a blind guy, he's done lots of stuff, and Mash is wrong to say that blind people can't do shit. All right, here's the clip I wanted to play for you earlier. So if you're giving things up because it's still beginning of the year, people have got their resolutions and things. Listen to this guy. You can't really argue. You can't argue with his logic. I'm not sure who he is. He's apparently a famous YouTuber or something. But here he is. Listen to this.
I will never quit drinking. I will never quit drinking. I will always make sure that I can keep my body healthy enough so that I can always drink. I love seeing a sunrise with a cocktail, seeing a sunset with a cocktail, having friends walk into your house with a bottle of wine, getting on a plane. Can I get you something? Double Jack on the rocks, lots of rocks. I love the moment someone says, hey, we should get a drink, and you're not supposed to. That feeling, it's like a first kiss. You don't get that first kisses when you're married. You get to have those first drinks. At a brunch, someone goes, should we do mimosas? And then the waiter goes, actually, we have bottomless mimosas. And you're like, this is going to be the best day ever.
Dude, you just hyped me the fuck up. You just hyped me up, bro. That was like a locker room speech.
Yeah.
It's pretty inspirational.
I should speak at AA meetings.
What?
I love it.
Guys.
Audrey says the guy called Bert Kreischer, and he's a comedian. So, okay. Bert Kreischer. I love that. I mean, why the hell not? That guy, that makes a very solid argument, if you ask me, for having drinks. And keep yourself, you hear what he said? He said, I will make sure I keep my body healthy enough to drink.
Yeah, look, so people in the comments are like, why are you giving up meat? Trust me, guys. It's not forever. It's just it's a whole thing. I'm eliminating and adding because of I'm eliminating stuff to see because I actually have been feeling quite shit for a lot of different reasons, besides the fact that I'm now over 40, which in itself is depressing enough to need a drink every now and again.
That's right.
So it's not forever. It's just so that I can see what are the culprits in all of these things. But the sugar seems to be a very big culprit. And now that you've eliminated stuff, you can feel it when you add it back in that okay, my body doesn't feel so lacquer about this thing. A couple of years ago I had an allergy to nuts.
Yep.
I've never had an allergy to nuts ever in my life. Do you know what it feels like to not be able to eat a fruit and nut chocolate?
Hell no. I would be very depressed.
It was infuriating. And now it's gone as well. Just a couple of years, couldn't eat nuts, and now it's fine.
We have the Burning Platform coming up later on in about half an hour from now, which is going to be fun. We're going to check in with Solly Moeng, who we haven't spoken to for, it's been a couple of months since we had Solly on. And we've got so much to get into there. I mean, you told me about the new Joburg mayor. You told me on Sunday night, I saw you at that Siya Kolisi thing. And Phumi told me about this guy. I had no idea because I don't watch the news over the weekend. And Phumi was telling me about his body language and, which party he's been in and which one he's currently in. And Jesus, we have lots to unpack there. I mean, that's a whole other story. So we'll get to that just now.
Listen, the news cycle yesterday, by 10 o'clock in the morning, I was just like, I'm ready to go back to bed. But it was month end, so you've got like lots of month end paperwork to do. I couldn't go back to bed.
Right.
Spent what the effing hell?
Well, car power ships, state of emergency, the ANC promising they'll have the power situation under control by the end of this year. So much to talk about.
Has anybody else noticed that if Cyril Ramaphosa tries to get on a plane to go somewhere, like the chaos that erupts, we're pushed up stages in the load shedding, the minute he goes away, so he went to Namibia, suddenly we're going to be at stage 6. What was that about stage 2 and stage 3 for the next 2 years?
It almost makes you think it's coordinated. Almost. If you were a conspiracy theory, you'd say, that's interesting. It seems like the politicians have some influence on when things get switched on and off. Someone was telling me that Cyril lives quite near to our new offices and that he never gets load shedding.
He's
So-
not that near.
Isn't he?
No, he's not that near.
Okay. Well, you must
He's
show me where he
closer to
lives.
Hyde Park.
Oh. Okay. Kampamba says, my sister and I were chatting about Nike Running Club versus Strava one night over dinner, and her TV remote has a mic on it for Google Assistant. That same night, Netflix recommended Nike home workouts. You see, this is happening. These things are listening to you all the time.
And this is why that ship has sailed, being angry about it, trying to, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
Here we go. Jenny says, your body is changing as you age. So Phumi, never underestimate walking and lifting weights. Huh.
Lifting weights, walking I do, but lifting weights.
Yeah. It's always good. Always good. Got to keep up a little bit of resistance on those muscles. There are lots of people here talking about all kinds of advice, but this is probably the best one. Is Congo Chris? Phumi, just fart. When I feel bad, I just fart, and that usually makes me feel better. So
I hope you don't do it in between the people, Congo, during the people. Generally farting. That is old people noises. Like that is
farting when they bend up, like they bend up.
That is old people noises. Those are the kind of things that you mustn't do. Mustn't do that, babies. It's just keep it together. Maintain the dignity, even as we age.
A lot of people are also saying that, cutting out sugar is the best thing you can do. So that one's a good one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't see a downside to cutting sugar out. And frankly, I don't really need that much sugar. I've already cut down. For example, this little espresso that I have in the morning, there's no sugar in that. I like half a spoon of sugar in my tea, which
I've been drinking
I've
one.
that right down from 2 about, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, whatever. I used to have 2 teaspoons of sugar in my tea. It was way too sweet. Now, if I think about it, it makes me sick. But now I'm onto half a teaspoon of sugar, and I reckon I could probably get rid of that before the end of this year.
I'm at 1 teaspoon of sugar. 1 teaspoon of sugar. I've cut out sweets. I used to eat lots of chocolate, lots of sweets, like Ruscals. Do you know how good Ruscals taste? But I've cut all of that out. And yeah.
Good for you.
We're trying, guys.
Let's see what we can do. Let's get into it.
In like 6 months, maybe in 6 months, you see how soft it looks over here? Because I'm a bit like, maybe I'll have like, you can see my clavicles. Maybe I'll be like a model. I'll be like, you can see my clavicles.
Very sexy. Congo Chris, to answer your question.
Stop it.
He says, farting in between people's the best. There's nothing quite like dropping a silent but deadly one and then asking someone, what smells like popcorn? All right. There is so much to get into.
So
we will go, I know we will go to the political stuff a little bit later on, because I don't want to get into Joburg city power. I don't want to talk about internal wrangling and the corruption in political parties yet. I also don't want to talk about Lindiwe Sisulu and the 1 billion rand Tottenham Hotspur deal, which we will save for the burning platform. But maybe it's worth looking at this. A newly discovered green comet is on its way to Earth. Are you excited about it?
Of course it is.
This is like a very bad start to a Marvel movie, right?
A green comet.
A green comet.
Oh God! Tell me more.
I'll show you what it looks like. I'll do better than that. Even you expect just to see, just to hear the story. I will show you a picture of this bloody thing so that you can understand. Anyway, astronomers say that this object has been traveling towards us for about 50,000 years. Photographs captured by astronomers show a distinct green hue around the body of the comet. But those expecting a brilliant streak of emerald in the sky will be disappointed. Its brightness is right at the threshold of what is visible to the naked eye. You may have seen the reports saying that we're going to get this bright green object, but that's a lie. Away from light pollution and below dark skies, you might be able to just see a little smudge in the sky if you know what you're looking for. Would-be stargazers have a better chance of spotting it using binoculars, in which it will appear as a faint white blur. Even a small pair of binoculars will help you. Comets are mostly composed of ice and dust. As they approach the sun, the ice is vaporized and the dust is shaken off to create that tail that we often see. If you're lucky, you'll see a hint of the tail coming off, so it'll look more like a classic comet, not this great green thing that they've promised us. Anyway, it's not, unfortunately, for those people.
Always building us
I
up to
know.
get us down.
And for those people who were hoping this would be Armageddon, I'm pleased to inform you that it's not that close that we're going to be wiped out like the dinosaurs. So here's what they've done.
The rapture is not here yet.
That's what it looks like through a telescope. And that is about the clearest that you'll get it to look. I mean, it's beautiful, but I would love to see something like that with the naked eye. That would be amazing. Right?
That is nice.
It
would be amazing.
Wendy says maybe it'll drop some kryptonite to help us dispose of some idiots. We can only hope.
Wendy, have we not learned that the idiots outlast us all?
Of course.
The idiots outlast us for some odd reason.
And they're plentiful. There are so many idiots. They're a sustainable resource. Right? Uncle Pot says, I hope it hits my house and gives me superpowers.
What superpower would you like to have, Unkgopotse?
On that note, someone sent me a thing that must be from Facebook or Instagram or something. It's this picture, and then it's got in the one hand there's the red pill, and the other hand there's a blue pill. You've seen this before, right?
Oh yes.
But this one got me thinking, because it's not just your. No, so here's the thing. The blue pill is like an automatic $10 million right now. Okay.
No matter what the red pill is, take the blue pill.
Are you sure? Because
no matter what the red pill is, take the blue pill.
Oh, no. The red pill's way better. I'll tell you what it is. The red pill, which you've chosen not to take, Phumi, you've just gone for the $10 million. The red pill would make you age 6 again. It would take you all the way back to when you were 6 years old.
I saw this. I would still take the blue pill.
But you would know. No, wait. This is what makes it cool. You would know everything you know now, including what's still to come, including all the knowledge that you've gained over 40-something years, Phumi. You would be the smartest 6-year-old that ever lived. People would think you were a savant. You could predict what was going to happen. You would make the most of your life. You would spend time with people who you know are not going to be around for long. You would be superhuman. I mean, like, I can't imagine. And you talk about superpowers. If I could just go back with all the things I know right now to age 6, that would put me at about 1983, somewhere around there, right? I would do that in a heartbeat.
6 would be. It'll be. No.
I would do it. I would love that. It would be.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. No matter what you know, even knowing all the things I know today, I would not want to be 16 again.
Oh, I would.
I would not want to be 22 again.
No. I'm not saying I don't. This is the best. Like, this is the best age I've ever been at, and I might say this in another 5 years. I might say it in another 10. But I'll tell you what, to go back to age 6, knowing everything I know now, oof, what a breeze life would be. And I would be smart. I would make the right decisions. I would never, ever push the wrong. I would be spectacular. Put me back in the body of a 6-year-old in 1983. Oh, hell yeah. Give it to me any day of the week. Bring it on. Bring it on. I might be the most precocious kid in the world, but I would take that red pill any day.
I would take the blue pill. I would go on a cruise to the Arctic. I would drink champagne. My best life.
No.
With the blue pill.
I'm sorry.
Really? I don't know if that's such a superpower. Like, knowing all the things I know now. So it's nah.
You could. I mean, you'd have to operate within certain rules because you would know what was going to happen. You can't affect the future. So there'd be very strict rules about like not changing the course of history too much, or else you'll be disappointed because you know what could have been and you might interrupt that. So that would be the only thing that would hold me back. But otherwise, bring it on. Red pill all the way. So at least we have some interesting disagreement on this one.
Lots of people would take the red pill. Just looking here at the comments,
Yeah.
lots of people would take the red
Sure.
pill. But what is the point of having all of that knowledge if you can't do anything with it because it'll change the course of history?
No, you can. You just
What-
have to do it in ways that are not going to interfere. And I think there are ways of doing that. Like, obviously, if you believe in chaos theory, the butterfly flaps its wings, it creates a hurricane. So obviously, there is always going to be a consequence that will change the course of history. But I'm willing to take that chance. To go back. I mean, what an adventure! You kidding? With everything I know now. Oh, hell yes! Bring it on. So I went to bed last night dreaming about this.
Okay, so here's a question for you. With all the things that you know now,
Yeah.
which two things do you think are the most valuable pieces of information you wish you had when you were, say, 16? So not maybe when you were 16.
No, let's go back to 6 because I've thought about
Okay,
it.
what would have been the most valuable piece of information?
I would know what was coming in South Africa. I would know that democracy and freedom are on the way in 1994, which is still it's 9 years away from my sixth birthday. So
Mhm.
that I'd be intrigued and fascinated by, and I'd watch it I would document it. I would take it all in a way that I didn't at age 6. I mean, nobody at age 6 is paying attention, but if I knew that was coming, I'd be watching the signs. I'd be just slurping it up. I'd be making notes. I'd be the most studious little 6-year-old you'd ever seen. That would blow me away. I would also want to watch the whole world change. The fall of the Soviet Union. I'm a history nerd. It would be brilliant to go back into the past with the knowledge of what was still to come. And, along the way, meet people, talk to people. Imagine, having conversations with people before they become the people that they become. You can't give anything away, but you just see what kind of people they were when they were still, someone who nobody really paid any attention to. Imagine seeing Thabo Mbeki or Elon Musk or, these people were here in South Africa. They were all around. We could have spoken to them, could have had these conversations. I think that would be fascinating. I'd love to meet you at age like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, I can imagine you precious child as well. I mean, it would be amazing. Come on. Love it.
I think it's probably very dull. Watching Kanego be 15 now
Mhm.
is a very fascinating thing, and I'm often kind of trying to figure out myself when I was that age, and just watching him and kind of watching him go through the stuff. We got so he's in the chamber choir. And
Oh, wow.
I know he's in the chamber choir, he's in the photography club, he does all
Nice.
these things. Then we got a note asking about they're going to the Drakensberg boys school because there's a festival, music festival, and the choir is going. And
Mhm.
how do the parents feel in April or something like that? So I got a call from his dad
Right.
to say, did you see this thing? And what do you think? Have you signed him up for it? Because I don't think Kanego's, he says to me, I don't think Kanego's really into this thing. I asked him about the songs. He doesn't know the songs. I don't think he's really interested. I think he's just going along because other boys are going and da 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 da. And I thought about it even this morning. I thought, yeah, well, when you're 15, you must just try everything anyway. You don't know what you like. You don't know what's going to, just try it. Try it anyway, So try out the chamber choir, go to the Drakensberg boys school and sing with the other kids and Maybe you like it. Maybe 20 years
Yeah.
from now, you're not even going to remember the chords, but so what? And so, that's kind of my view is you just, in those ages, you just take it in. Play the tennis, play the piano, like go to ballet. I did
I
all
don't
of
see.
those things, and
I
I
don't.
don't do any of those things now.
I don't see how anything you've said in any way interferes with my red pill. I think you're almost making my argument for me. Oh yeah.
You would know
Yes.
what all is coming.
Yes. All right. Well, if you
Rolf
think
Meyer, Jen says she'd like to talk to Rolf Meyer and tell him a thing or two about
Rolf,
Kodesa.
yeah, that could be interesting, Jenny. Yeah, that could be Rolf Meyer. Yeah, I think you've spelt it wrong, but I get what you mean. Rolf Meyer would be interesting. I interviewed him 4 years ago. He is fascinating. He's a smart guy. He had
He's-
some interesting
he's-
conversations back in the day.
I was at a lunch presentation with him in December, funny enough.
Mhm.
And he still had very interesting things to say about where we are today from back then and what he would do differently. Also because I ask strange questions, and also why they needed to get to the negotiating table and why it was so important. And I think that kind of conversation doesn't get had enough in the country for all of us to understand that it wasn't an altruistic decision to go to the
Oh,
negotiating
not.
table.
Yeah, of course not. No, nothing in politics is altruistic. Come on. All right, so listen to this, because this is something we've often talked about. Do you think that we live in an increasingly therapized world where the solution to every problem is therapy or counseling? You know what I'm talking about, right, Phumi?
Absolutely.
Overdoing it. So everyone's like, oh, I'm in therapy 3 times a week. I mean, if you're in therapy 3 times a week, either you've got major problems, and I hope in that case therapy helps you, or you're just bored, because who could possibly spend that much time talking about themselves? It's just insane. Anyway, we might have become a society where problem solving within the context of our personal lives requires professional assistance, provocative questions, possibly no clear answers. It's all explored on this week's episode of Beyond Madness, Psychotherapy. When is it enough? It's brought to you in proud association with Adcock Ingram OTC. The sponsors are Brave. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, that's with Professor Christopher Paul Szabo, and it is one of our favorite podcasts, Beyond Madness. Make sure you download it wherever you get your podcasts today. Very good. All right. We've got one other thing that I think you wanted to get off your chest before we move into the burning platform later on. What are the things that you used to do religiously and now you don't even care about? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Give me an example.
Listen, it just occurred to me that we're just about to get into all this award season, right? So the Oscars, the Grammys, and I used to watch those things religiously. There's a guy that I used to work with who used to watch all the films that are nominated for the Oscars and then would take a lottery as to who's going to win in which category. I don't think I've seen the Oscars in 5 years. We spoke about the Golden Globes earlier this last month, and again, I was just like, comes and goes. And these are things that used to be, but there's also lots of stuff like that. I used to go to the movies all the time, but now, if I haven't been to the movies, I don't feel like a part of me is missing. And I wondered if there are other people who feel that way, that there's so many things they used to do all the time that they just don't do anymore.
Well, I fell off the Oscars, Golden Globe, Emmy, Grammy bandwagon years ago. I think more than 10, maybe even 12 years ago, I stopped watching that stuff. The only thing that brought me back momentarily, and it was really through clips on the internet, not the actual ceremony, was when Ricky Gervais was nailing Hollywood and just telling them
I just saw that clip again yesterday.
I mean, really, aside from him, and he was a glimmer of light in an otherwise very dark canvas, I could care less about Hollywood congratulating itself on anything. I've not watched one of those things from end to end since I was a teenager.
Sure. And it just dawned on me that I think also because there's so many more things. There's so many more things to do, so many more places to
Yeah.
go to. So that some things just
Well, I've spoken about this on the show before, Pums, but I don't watch TV. I mean, I used to watch a lot of TV. Television was a part of our lives. It would be on when you got home from school. You'd watch it at night with your family, or you'd watch movies on a Sunday on Mnet. Do you remember all that?
The Mnet's 8 o'clock film was a thing.
I don't do any of that anymore. If my TV's on once a month, it's a lot. I mean that. It's like I've got one television in this house. Yes, really. It's the weirdest thing. And then people say to me, what TV shows are you watching? And unless it's a series that I'm watching on my laptop, I don't know what they're talking about. And I don't go through series like a lot of people do. They eat them up, they digest them, and they binge from like 1 to episode 13 in a day and a half. I take a little bit longer, and I don't watch as many series either. But geez, TV is, I could do without a television in this house. I promise you.
Really,
I wish I could give up. I wish I could give up eating rubbish as easily as TV, actually, now that you think about it.
But if you don't watch TV, when are you eating the rubbish? Because those two things like go hand in hand. You're not just
not
really?
not me. No, don't watch TV. Promise. I wouldn't make this up. It's embarrassing because, frankly, there are lots of people who ask questions about TV shows because a lot of people's lives revolve around TV, and then you're out of those conversations. You stand around and they're busy talking. Did you see this on this channel this week? And I'm like, no, I haven't watched TV for ages, and then I feel very stupid and left out. Sorry.
No.
So, TV generally, awards shows absolutely. I used to religiously, during lockdown, I used to walk with my dog almost every day because we felt trapped. So you had to get out there.
Oh no, you should tell me you did not stop.
Phumi, I haven't been on a walk since I got this new dog. She turned 1 yesterday, so it's been a year at least.
No.
Promise you.
Or
horrible. Yeah.
Also, going to the gym. I used to go to the gym at 5 a.m. for years. For years, I used to go to the gym at 5 a.m. and then it was like 9. But now I just don't go to the gym. I'll stretch at home. I do yoga at home. Somebody was talking about the Nike Running Club app. I have the NTC, the Nike Training Club app, on my phone, and it's just. But yeah. But and I wondered, so why do you think you stopped? Did you stop because there's too much competing interest, or did you stop because you got old and it just, you don't care about it anymore?
It slipped down the list of priorities. It was something that I made a point of doing during lockdown because I thought this is good exercise, at that stage, at the beginning of it anyway. We couldn't go to gym. I wanted to get out. I felt like a bit of cabin fever. So it was important to be doing things like that. Now it's way less important. I mean, I did it every day with the dog. And now I'm feeling like I've really let that one go. What else have I given up that I used to do religiously? Well,
Ryan says he's given up playing games because his concentration. That's hilarious.
Oh, really?
And also because the PS5 costs 15,000 Rand.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've never been a big gamer, so I can't say that that's something that I used to do. Congo Chris says I used to watch the news religiously. These days, the news houses are so vacuous and captured, there's no point. News used to be informative, now it's prescriptive. Totally agree. Totally agree.
The news, you know what? The South African news also used to be much more wide. Now you don't get international news on the like 8 o'clock cycle or whatever. You don't hear much about what's happening in the rest of the continent. You don't hear what's happening in the
Yep.
East. I mean, crying out loud, Pakistan is imploding. And unless you watch the news on YouTube or any of those kinds of things, you just never hear about it.
Well, I'll tell you what I did yesterday, 7 o'clock last night. I interviewed this guy, a guy called Owen Matthews. He's written this book called Overreach, which you'll love. It's the inside story of Putin's war against the Ukraine. And this guy is the most informed person I've
Wow.
spoken to about it. So, what I'm finding is to talk to someone like him is way more useful than seeing these bullshit artists on news channels who are trying to tell you about Putin and Zelensky and what kind of Leopard tanks they're sending in. I mean, listen, these guys don't know a damn thing. This Owen Matthews, he's the guy to talk to. We'll be playing that interview probably Wednesday next week. So stand by for that. That's going to be fun.
Nice.
But
nice.
yeah, now that, you see, I would rather do that than watch a TV program. You see what I mean? And that's part of work for me, but I enjoy doing that.
You get to, and this is also why I also kind of stopped listening to the radio, because I listen to so many more podcasts now.
Right. Oh yeah.
And because-
Listen, once you start with podcasts, you have them on while you're doing other things, and you don't need the news. You don't need television. You don't need the visuals. You get the story without the stupid clickbait pictures.
Speaking of clickbait, did you see the headline last week about Christopher Papas in The Economist? I think it was The Economist headline. And the headline was, how clickbaity is this? The white, gay, Zulu-speaking mayor that's shaking up politics in South Africa. Like,
Jesus.
how clickbaity is that? All of them, white, gay, Zulu. But anyway, there's a little article, but it was unnecessary. That headline was a little unnecessary. And that's what the news headlines are like now, It's got to be like overly exciting.
Well, they also have to hit those LGBT terms, and you have to throw some race into it because, that's what people pick up on. And people scan headlines, and they often, I'm not saying this is true for everybody, I certainly hope it isn't, but often that's the stuff that gets people's attention. So, headline, they have to throw race, they have to throw LGBT, and they have to throw all that kind of shit in there, which is just nonsense.
Callistus Buseletswe says that we must admit that we're grown up and our brains are preoccupied by other pressing issues. I'm not sure if they're preoccupied by other pressing issues more than they've learned how to decipher what's important and what's not. I don't know if it's pressing.
Matthew says, what? Chris Papas is white? All right. Well, it is 7 o'clock. We will be starting the Burning Platform next. Stick around for that and a whole lot more. Solly Moeng is our guest. We can't wait to talk to him again. Don't you go anywhere. CliffCentral.com.
I've got 2 minutes to go and make a coffee.
Go and make your coffee, Phumi. I'll start without you, even if your coffee's not ready. Okay?
No, my coffee will be ready.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
But one of the things that you kind of spotlighted last year was buyers are going to be spending less time in physical dealerships and moving more online. Do you think that's something that actually happened? Do you see that happening more?
I don't think dealerships are going to go away.
Yeah.
Especially with used cars. Maybe new will move in that direction faster or more than used. But the thing about a used car is it's not a commodity. Every single used car in the market is a unique item on its own. One VW GTI is not the same as another used VW GTI. It's got different mileage, slightly different specs, different color maybe, different interior. It's
not like going to Takealot, right? And
exactly
ordering the same thing.
So in that world, I don't think dealerships will go anywhere, especially in the used car environment. Maybe to a certain degree the new. I mean, we've already seen that the number of dealership visits per consumer came down to about 1.6 at one stage.
Yeah.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Hi, I'm Barrett Edelstein. Join me for my podcast, Celeb Savant. Today I'm with Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
So right at the moment, I'm at home in London, but after I speak to you, I'm going to pack my bags.
3 of the members of UB40, Earl, Matt, and Jimmy.
Well, we're in the middle of a tour at the moment.
Career retrospective with actors, singers, and entertainment industry experts every Friday morning at 9 o'clock on CliffCentral.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All right, it is time for the Burning Platform, and today we have a full agenda of stuff to talk about. We're also joined by one of our favorite guests, Solly Moeng, who is the founder of Don Valley Reputation Managers, as well as a freelance writer and columnist, and someone who does not hold back on his opinions. Solly, it's good to see you. How are you?
Hello, my friend Gareth. I'm very good. Very happy to be here. Where's that coffee with Phumi?
She's on her way. Don't worry. You're a regular and a favorite on the Burning Platform, and we have no shortage of stuff to get into today. So here she is with her coffee. Hello, Pums.
Hello, Pums.
Hello! Look at that.
Very quick. Well done. Okay, so listen, lady and gentlemen, we have a bunch of things to talk about. I'm just going to again reiterate when I found out that we had a new mayor and that Popalatse, who we had on this show not so long ago, was ousted. Phumi Mashiko in the frame at the bottom here is the one who told me on Sunday night. She said, "Did you see our new mayor?" And I said to her, "What?" And then she broke the news to me. And this is what she said. She said he was on Newsroom Africa and he was sitting like this with his arms crossed, with a face like a smacked ass, looked really, really angry. And all he could talk about was potholes. Is that a fair assessment, Phumi? Is that more or less what you told me? Because that frightened the hell out of me. I thought, this is all we got.
That is what he said. They said, what's his priority? He said, it is dealing with the potholes, and then launched into a whole thing about technology and being able to, and it was bizarre to watch. It really was bizarre to watch.
Really?
And 2 days ago, what is today? Thursday. He was actually sworn in, and he came in a Palestine scarf to the swearing in. And to be fair, he does represent Al Jamaa, and he rose to fame. I think a lot of people, even though he came from the EFF, came from a stint in the EFF, left the EFF in 2016, I think, after there was some kind of hurly-burly with EFF kind of, and councils and all of the voting within that party. He then joined the ANC for a small stint, I think for about 6 months, and then joined Al Jamaa, where he is now a councillor. He's one of the 3 people who sit on the Joburg Council for Al Jamaa. And one of what did he propose? So when he then rose to kind of more prominent fame, where everybody else got to know about him, is he proposed the renaming of Santon Drive after a Palestinian.
To what?
I'm gonna remember what her name is. It's a very difficult name for me to remember.
Tapelo something.
No, not his name. He wanted the renaming of
it's a
Santon Drive.
Khaled something. I think it's Khaled.
To a woman who was murdered in Palestine, and the whole thing was to be, because on Santon Drive is the embassy, the American embassy, right? So to be an irritant.
To show them the middle finger. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. I don't know what this Al Jamaat party or whatever it is all about, but I mean, clearly they're preoccupied. Whatever. They're clearly preoccupied with Palestine, and I'm very happy for them. But people in Johannesburg are not, because people in Johannesburg have problems with blue water, no electricity, potholes on every road, infrastructure collapsing, major problems, crime. The place looks like a rubbish dump. I think on the list of the average Joburg citizens' list of things they care about, I would be surprised if Palestine made the top 100. And if this guy is going to be obsessive about, seeking to please his tiny, what would you call it? What is it? It's like a small group of people that elected his party with their 3 seats. Then I'm afraid that this is the worst decision ever made. Who's responsible for putting him in there? Is it Herman Mashaba and Gayton McKenzie?
No.
Well,
It's the
spokesperson, the spokesperson for Herman Mashaba's Action SA made it a very clear point in the council sitting just before the vote that they, as Action SA, continue to support the mayor and have the full confidence of the mayor. However, this is his statement, not mine. The DA had let the mayor down in that they had stopped supporting her. And listen, this council sitting was a shit show. And we saw it coming. We knew when we had Mho on, we spoke about it as well, that they are going to keep trying to get her out of the seat, and they have not stopped. And the Action SA and Herman Mashaba, in some of the interviews that I've seen him talking about what happened, the collapse of the coalition in Johannesburg, keeps reiterating that the DA is at fault for being arrogant, as they call it, for not supporting the mayor, and really wanting to wag the dog.
They may not actually have been actively involved in the election of this new mayor, but they certainly didn't help. So you say, I mean, the EFF and the ANC are obviously behind this, and they will do anything they can.
And definitely with the help of the Patriotic Alliance.
Right. So they also have blood on their hands then. And if this mayor is anything like what we've just seen the surface of in the last couple of days and the few appearances he's made in his really, really uninspiring speech the other day in his Palestine scarf, I'm not very excited about what the future holds. But I'm also concerned about something else which is happening on the ground right now, and which no one seems to be talking about terribly much because, it's just a little bit of property damage and, some people have had to flee for their lives. But in Olivenhout-Bosch, the EFF are going around telling people, come and get some free land. Just take the land. Again, when you deal with people who don't appreciate property rights, what they seem to fail to understand is that someone else will then come and take that property away from you by force after you've given it to someone else without any documentation or any valid and deep understanding of why property law matters and why possession of property is an important part of any economy. There are people who have been chased out of their houses, businesses have been destroyed, and I'm not talking about rich people. I'm not talking about people who have wine farms. I'm talking about people who live on small holdings, people who live in small houses, people who live in shacks, people who have tiny little spaza shops, people who have, small businesses that operate off of plots near Mnandi in Centurion. There are people who, who've been trying to. They come from other parts of Africa and they've fled here as refugees very often. They're trying to run a little business from the back garden of their shack, and they've been essentially stripped of their property, or their property has been torched or destroyed, and it seems no one's talking about this. And the EFF are not being arrested. They are openly calling for people to just seize property. This is criminal. Why aren't these people being put in jail?
Because we live in a country that has long been turned into some kind of Orwellian animal farm where the justice system goes after some people and not others. I mean, if you think of the riots that happened in Durban following the arrest in KZN, following the arrest of Zuma 2 years ago, his children, Duduzane, were prominently active in in getting people to go into the street and do what they did. But when the police said, okay, now we're going to go after the people who started this thing, nobody's talking about it anymore, because they know that we live in a country where people quickly forget. And I remember Malema does the same thing. The criminal justice system seems to fear him. The police, they don't want to offend this man too much. So he says these things that push crowds, individuals who believe in him, to do things that are not good for society, for the economy. As you say, how do you go to Davos and say to people, we're open for business, come and invest in South Africa, when there is a risk of their property being confiscated at the behest of Malema? But Ramaphosa as leader should stand up and say, this is not acceptable. And he doesn't do that. And that's a problem. Every brand is led by a leader. And if the leader doesn't set the tone from the front, like Ramaphosa has consistently failed to do, everybody runs in their own direction.
You're still speaking about going to Davos to get everybody to come and invest. We're about to spend R1 billion to get our name on the Tottenham Hotspur jersey.
Hold on, we're going to visit
SA.
We're going to get to that in a second. There are a lot of people asking about that in the comments. But what does the president do? Let's just find. We were talking last week about what Didi Mabuza does, and there were some interesting ideas being thrown around there. But what does Cyril Ramaphosa do besides smile, glad hand, climb onto planes, climb off of planes, and arrange NEC meetings where he sits there with a mouthful of teeth? What is our president doing? In fact, what is anyone in government doing at the moment? I hear them all talking a lot. They're talking about a state of emergency now, which is a clear admission that they cannot manage the country anymore. I think these guys have just got to look in the mirror and go, this job is too big for us. We're all too useless, and resign en masse. I mean, it's a fantasy, but you never know. Stranger things have happened.
It looks like Mbalula is quickly going to start running the country with the government from the Tuli house as things go. He's the one who's determining the tone. Mantashe, Mbalula, there's no leader. Yeah. It's very scary. It's very scary. When you look at South Africa, I describe it as a bucket filled with holes, and it looks like there are more and more holes. It's very porous. It can't even hold a drop of water. It quickly falls out because, where do you start fixing this country with a government like this? 30 years, they've had almost 30 years next year. It's going to be really, really difficult because there's no leadership, there's no direction, there are no policy certainties, there's electricity power. I'm wanting to return to South Africa to teach, but I teach online. You see, my students are sitting in different time zones. How do I do that without knowing that there's going to be electricity? There's no way that I can afford to cancel a class. And many other small businesses, big business, and I think we should stop demonizing the rich in South Africa. If people have become rich through hard work, we should allow them to do so. We have a tax system in South Africa that's progressive. The more money you have, the more you pay into the system. Just don't steal the money. So we start now blaming our problems on the people who've worked to have money, not on the people who are stealing the money, who are making sure that their bodies don't pay the taxes, just like Nani and Zuma did over time.
If it wasn't for rich people remember, in South African terms, you don't have to be rich to be rich. You're considered rich in South Africa if you're earning, I think, anywhere above 25 to 30,000 rand a month. That's considered rich in this country, which by any first world country standards is not rich. Either way, those are the people paying for schools, for police, for infrastructure, for municipal services, all of that stuff. Those are the people paying for it because more of our tax is brought in through income tax than any other category. So if you demonize those people or you keep on trying to gouge them, you're eventually going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, and then you will have nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's my sentiment.
Look, I think and this is the ad break for Phumi to say, I think South Africans, all of us, need to be more involved. We love it. We love the complaining over wine at dinner. We hate the corruption. We hate this and we hate that. But we're very hardly ever willing to stand up and be part of the solution, whether it is in joining a political party that you believe in, campaigning for them, donating to them, and being part of the solution. I think we kind of relegated it, and maybe it's because we feel that there's so much going wrong that we just don't know where to start. But I think that there are many avenues of where to start. I often in the comments, lots of people think I hate the DA, but very often I'm saying, then join the party, join your ward, join your campaign on their behalf, be there for them. Support them with your time, with your money, with your ideas. Anybody, anybody other than the incumbents. So where you feel the problem is, support the competitor, support the opposite, to give them, to boost them, to be able to have what they need in order to be in the positions to be able to affect and make the change.
You don't need me. You don't need me defending you, Phumi. But I mean, you've been a vocal critic of the president. I don't see too many people in the comments complaining about that point of view. And when you talk about the DA, Sully, this is where I want you and your input, please. We see that in the DA at the moment there are a lot of problems. And of course, I've said this a million times. We seem to have a very high standard for the DA, and all the others we have a very low standard. If the ANC manages to, I don't know. To shit inside the bowl, we usually give them a round of applause. With the DA, they're required to attain huge high levels of excellence in every respect in order to receive, the most meager of compliments. But the DA has its problems at the moment. That's evidenced by what's happened in Johannesburg. Whether it's entirely their fault or not is worthy of discussion. That's why we want you to have your say this morning, Solly. But Popalatse now, it seems, is also going after John Steenhuisen's position in the DA. So there are ructions in there that are not making it easy for people to support them wholeheartedly.
Yeah, look, I mean, we have this post-traumatic stress disorder, perhaps that comes from apartheid, colonialism. So if the DA, to a lot of South Africans, if the DA were to be the one that says, hey, you're standing in the middle of the road, there's a truck coming really, really fast towards you, many people will stay there because it's the DA that's saying that. The fact of the matter, and I wrote a piece about a week ago for FIN24, to say the DA is doing a lot of things right, whether people like it or not. The DA has consistently received clean audits since 2006. These are ANC appointed auditors, auditor generals, all right? And it's announced good news after good news after good news. Cape Town is recovering in terms of visitor and tourism numbers from COVID-19. They're doing a lot of good things. They've just announced the winning of some almost 400 million rands worth of conferences over the next 2-3 years, etc. But there are people who, as you say, they will look at the townships around Cape Town, not the townships around Pretoria or Johannesburg or Durban, to see the mess that's happening there, and they will give the DA a hard time because it's racist, apparently. I have spoken to, I think that the DA needs to do a better job communicating what it's doing, and I think that Steenhuisen needs to, I don't know, to communicate maybe differently better, but I don't think Steenhuisen is racist. I don't believe so. Okay, we easily paint people racist in South Africa when they say or things that we disagree with, and once you've painted somebody racist, it's almost like that's the end of the discussion. You can't go further. I think that the DA, well, I mean, if you speak to Mashaba, I spoke to Mashaba a few days ago, and he did say, even McKenzie confirmed that of the 3 seats, the mayoral seats that the Action SA had, they were prepared to give 2 to PA, to McKenzie's party. The things McKenzie's party is also behaving like a political prostitute, really. I mean, it'll go wherever there is. This is not about the residents of South Africa, of Johannesburg. It's all about what party, what positions do you give us, what is the money in that position, and that's really what worries me. And the DA apparently scuppered this bill in the last minute, which is, they have their own explanation. But I on this particular point, I believe Mashaba, because even McKenzie and the 2 men are not friends of each other. He said, look, these guys gave us the 2 seats we wanted, but the DA wanted something else. And I don't know, there's something has to change about the coalitions, the way coalitions work, and it has to be changed. There's going to be a clear guideline ahead of the 2024 elections. Otherwise, we're going to wake up next year with this sort of thing happening again. And of course, they'll blame the DA, racist, it's arrogant, it's all of these things. I don't think the DA is always right or always wrong. I don't think everybody else in the politics is always right, or the ANC and the F are always wrong. That's what. Okay, I'm just being naughty, but
go ahead.
couple of, so there are a couple of different things that we have to consider about what's happening. Gareth, you say ructions within the party. I'm not sure if there are ructions per se. I think, and I did spend on Monday and Tuesday kind of trying to look at how the DA works and what Mpho's chances are going forward. I mean, I think it's interesting that given what has happened to her here in Joburg and what everybody around her is saying, that the party is what has let her down. I think it's interesting that she would then very quickly thereafter put out a press statement, and she even had a press briefing about it, about her wanting to go after John Steenhuisen's job. I think that the timing is wrong. I think she might have done better to take the count with what's happened in Johannesburg. She's still a councillor. She would still be in the council chamber, but also then spend the DA electoral conference is happening in April. I think she should have spent the next couple of months internally campaigning at the DA if she really wants this job, if she really wants the job. And I think, I don't know if she would do a good job leading the DA, but it certainly would bode well for the DA if they were able to bring a person like Mpho into the FedEx Council. I think that there is an opportunity for the DA to reposition itself in the minds of the voting electorate, at least, as a multi-faceted party that's more than just what Helen Zille tweets out. That's more than just what we see with John Steenhuisen, but a multifaceted party. And maybe they would do well also to partner up with some of the new organizations that are building their way. I'm thinking about Songezo Zibi and Rise Zanzi here. And reposition in the minds of the electorate as an inclusive. And, branding is so important. There is lots of talk about the DA being a racist party, or DA being an anti-Black party, or DA being a whites-only party. And that is a branding and perspective issue. It's a perspective issue, and that perspective is not coming out of thin air. It is a perspective that people have because of how they have seen the DA position itself and speak about itself and act over the past couple of years. So everybody will say to you, look what happened to Lindiwe Mazibuko. Look what happened to Musi Maimane. Look what happened. You know what I'm saying? All of those things position in the mind of the electorate a point of view that says, and we do have PTSD in this country. We have serious PTSD about what a black-white kind of faction would be.
But this is a fallacious place for us to still be sticking around. I mean, in my mind, Musi Maimane is just a low-quality candidate, just like Carl Niehaus is a bad white person in the DA. I don't think of Carl Niehaus as representing me in the ANC. I don't think of Helen Zille as representing me in the DA, frankly. I could care less. I want someone who's competent. I could give a shit what color they are. And I've been pretty clear about that from day one. Now, I know I'm not the majority when it comes to this, and lots of people feel for some reason that I can't understand, and I'm not prepared to go into conversations about sitting down with a psychotherapist or whatever to figure out why they do and I don't, for example. But if you have to see someone who looks exactly like you in order to vote for them, well, I mean, I feel for you. That's all I can say. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that Carl Niehaus, or who's the other one? Who's the Minister of Tourism? He was for a while, Derek Hooghart.
Derek Hanekom.
Derek Hanekom.
Hanekom. Do you think? You see, I don't even know.
I don't know. Dude. Okay, can I just say this?
Those are white people in the ANC, but it means nothing to me. Nothing.
Yeah.
Zero.
But look, it's not true that all of the perceptions about the DA are due to the DA's failings or utterances.
No.
There is also a campaign to tell people, I know it, to tell people that if the DA were to win power in South Africa, apartheid would return. The DA is not saying that to people. And I've met apparently intelligent-looking people in Johannesburg, black people driving nice cars, living in nice homes, who truly believe that the DA would bring apartheid back. Okay, and the idea is not spreading those messages. It's ANC people who are, especially in rural areas, because we have sufficiently gullible people. We have sufficient numbers, supply of gullible people in South Africa who will believe anything, who don't connect the dots, who will make judgments on the basis of a tweet, a headline, and that's the problem we have. It's lack of education, information.
We completely discount, all of us, completely discount that the problem with democracy, as much as it is the only one that works, is it is also about the lowest common denominator. It is about the lowest common denominator. So you've got to consider that what you are dealing with is you're not dealing with just people of you and I, relative, emotionless, looking at the facts, deciding on. There is an issue of, if you spread it widely, we've spoken about this on the show, even as Cyril Ramaphosa was campaigning, and I said to you, part of the reason why, as every indication says to us that Cyril Ramaphosa is not the right person to lead this country, because as deputy president, he was a fuck up to begin with, right? And now you're going to give him the top job. But the lowest common denominator, which is what democracy is about, says if these are the three red flags that I am looking at, I'm going to see nothing else. I'm going to be like this and see nothing else. I mean, in the same way that we talk about saying, oh, if you look at the executive at the DA, it's all white. We should be complaining about the fact that when you look at the NEC in the ANC, they're all black. When I spoke to Willets Mbeki here on the show a couple of months ago, and I said to him, what has happened to the ANC that they have changed from being a multifaceted party to being this singular type of party where the kind of people that make it to the top are generally thugs?
Can I just say again, I don't care how many black or white people are in any of these. I don't give a shit. And I think there are more and more South Africans who don't give a shit. The big problem we have in this country is an ideological one. At the foundation level, we have a problem because there are people who believe that anyone, if they're elected to a job, is capable of doing it. I cannot build a bridge. I'm not an engineer. If you trust me to build a bridge, the bridge will collapse and I will have killed many, many people. It's on my conscience. I resign as an engineer. If you put me in that position. Now, I don't read enough of Das Kapital to know exactly how Karl Marx figured these problems would go away. But here's what I understand as being a problem, is that we have a bunch of people in all of these parties, but most especially in the ANC, who are incompetent, incapable, who have very, very low self-esteem and or intelligence, and who've been given jobs which they are not in any way qualified to do. Politics is now a specialist occupation because you're responsible for millions of people. And in a country like ours, where we have crumbling infrastructure, an economy that needs dire assistance, you can't put morons in those positions because all they're going to do is not only damage the country and themselves, but they will cause irreparable damage to future generations because it's setting us back. Countries like India and China are moving ahead at a rate of knots. Even America, despite all of the collapse of civilization that people are talking about, is so far ahead of us.
Look, Gareth,
any brilliant South African is probably sending their children overseas because they don't believe that this is the place for their kids to have the best possible opportunity. So those of us like Solly and Phumi and I that are still talking about this on a South African channel, even though we're on the internet, it's like we're farting against thunder because these guys who are in charge are not in any way capable of making the important decisions that need to be made. They're just sitting there in their hands.
Yeah. Look, I think the changes that need to happen in South Africa, first of all, it's not just up to the ANC to lose elections next year, which it must, because the ANC is almost like this giant that's pressing its knee down South Africa's neck, and South Africa is never going to stand up while this knee is pressed down on its neck by the African National Congress. But it's not just up to the ANC to lose elections, it's up to the opposition parties to we need a voice. South Africa needs a voice to inspire, especially all those young people and other people who've given up on voting because they didn't see any change coming out of it. But what we need in South Africa, more than anything else, are systemic changes, the way the country works. Right now, the president of the strongest party becomes the president of South Africa, and we know that with the two positions that Ramaphosa holds, president of the ANC and president of South Africa, the president of the ANC is the strongest party, but it's a very strange kind of situation, because if the ANC decides this is the way you're going to run, Ramaphosa must run that way. Whoever is president must run. They have not been strong enough. You need a very strong person to say, no, this is wrong. This is what's good for South Africa.
But that's
MPs
one more...
are not MPs. No, but the thing is, we're going to have this conversation again next year if we think that all we need is just to change solely, replace them with Phumi. You need more than that.
So this is where I just want to take us a step back, because we haven't finished with this question that Phumi raised earlier. I mean, you two are people I've listened to, and you've made a lot of sense to me over the years. I need to finish this question with a suitable answer, an answer that at least helps me to understand logically, rationally, and reasonably how we can get beyond this. If it is all about window dressing, which effectively is what we're talking about, because if we're putting people in just because they will appeal to white or black voters and not based on merit, we're only going to make the problem worse, surely, not better. Mm-hmm. So if we put someone like Musi Maimane in, who clearly did not work for whatever reasons, maybe it was the DA's machinations behind the scene, or maybe he was just a poor candidate. And if someone like Mpopalatse is a good candidate, which I believe, then we've got to do what Phumi says and give her time to campaign, grow her role in the party, and organically make it happen. Then she wouldn't get in because she's a black woman. She'd get in because she's the best person for the job. Once we start to see voters, and we treat them with the respect, I believe, where we say voters are not going to be persuaded by window dressing. Voters will be persuaded by merit. And if that isn't true, well, then we're fucked. But if they can be persuaded by merit, then all of this should disappear into the next, the last chapter of our book, and we should start a new one.
Yeah, look, the power lies in the members of the DA. I mean, I haven't commented about Palatse fighting for the position, wanting to become leader of the DA. I think it's okay. Let's have another voice. Let's see what she has to say. Hopefully they will give her, and I don't see why they wouldn't, give her a fair chance to convince DA members, because they're the ones who are going to vote on whether or not Steenhuisen stays or somebody else becomes leader of the DA. If she wins, I hope that she will do the things that you describe, go out there and convince her South African. But she has to speak to all South Africans. You can't have you know what? You can't hope to lead a country as diverse as South Africa if you think that only one group is more important than the other. We're all important. The Constitution says so. You need to appeal to all South Africans. And that's difficult because we're such a diverse country, not just in terms of the way we look, in terms of the way we think, in terms of the way we pray and all that stuff. If you don't have the maturity, the emotional maturity, intelligence, the balance to be able to speak to all South Africans, irrespective of whom you agree or you disagree with, just like Mandela was able to, you can't lead South Africa.
What do you say, Phums?
Look, I think, and I've said on the show before, I think, and last year we spoke a lot about shifting sands in where South Africa is. And I think that the people of South Africa, poor and rich, black and white, are definitely at a place where they all understand the failing of the ANC. And the reason they understand it is because everybody's life today is significantly worse off than what it was even 10 years ago. Right? So everybody is, you see the inflation, you see the petrol price, you see the job losses, you see, everybody has seen all of this. We were talking about the deterioration of the water quality, the electricity being out. That is what everybody is feeling right now. And for me, I think it is not for the ANC to lose next year. It is actually for opposition parties to lose.
Yep.
Because the people are ready to make the change. And the people are ready to make the change if they hear the right noises coming from the opposition parties. If there is enough convincing them. People in South Africa have stopped going to the polls.
But
they have stopped going to the polls. And the reason they've stopped going to the polls is because, A, they are not voting for the ANC. They refuse to vote for the ANC, but also feel they can't give their vote to anybody else. That is the feeling of the...
Then they must stay at home, because we can't keep on begging these people.
And again, this is the problem with democracy. Democracy is not democracy. So one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite hip hop artists, Jill Scott Heron, had a poem about slam poet, had a poem about nobody should be the president, because he did the calculation of how many people voted for nobody and how many people voted for Nixon. And that statistically speaking, then nobody should be the president, which is where South Africa is. But that's not how democracy works. It's the will of the many who vote, not the will of the many.
So forgive me if I'm reading too much into this, but if someone would rather stay home and not participate than vote for the ANC, which is their first choice. So if they could vote for the ANC, they would, but because they can't vote for the ANC, they'll those are the people we're talking about, right? Then I'm happy they're staying at home, frankly.
On a voters roll. But that works for the ANC, guys. That works for the ANC.
No, hang on.
Because on a voters roll of 25 million South Africans, people eligible to vote, 25 million South Africans whose names are on the voters roll, only 18 million show up to vote, and 11 million of those vote for the ANC. It works for the ANC if people stop coming to the poll.
I would like to suggest one day that we have a conversation about the so-called Independent Electoral Commission, how it works. We need to ask people whether elections have been rigged in South Africa or not, whether all the results that have been churned out are a true reflection of the voters. Or I have had these conversations with somebody, you know him, Terry is all there on the internet, and the ANC controls the IEC. Not everything that we have seen is a reflection of what people are voting. So we keep saying all the stupid people, informed and ill-informed people keep voting for the ANC. We don't have proof of that. We believe that because we've blindly believed what the IEC tells us. It's important that we have this conversation. And it's important that we ask the IEC, what are you going to do to make sure that, given all these load shedding things, the crisis, what are you going to do to make sure that we have proper trusted elections next year? What plan are you starting? They're not going to come up in the last minute and make excuses.
I don't know how much more evidence we need. I mean, we spoke, Phumi brought up Chris Pappas, this guy in Umgeni, who's now running that municipality. They're not at a loss anymore. They've balanced their budgets. They've sorted out their water. They've sorted out some municipal issues that were dragging around for the last 28 years. So that he's starting to get things right. I don't give a shit that he's white, but some people seem to think that that's the story. We've got proof that sometimes some politicians get it right. Jordan Hill-Lewis, who in Cape Town is doing a terrific job. You know, two of my friends in the last 2 weeks who've come up to visit in Joburg have said they are horrified and astonished at how backward Joburg is sliding and how quickly it's sliding backwards. Yeah. They are disgusted at the state of our roads, the state of our electricity and water supply, the fact that the Sandton CBD is almost a zombie apocalypse zone. There's hardly any people around. And this is obviously not happening in Cape Town. I mean, I was there in December briefly, and it's alive. And there are things happening. Solly, you just spoke about how investment's starting to pour back into Cape Town post-COVID. Now, if Jordan Hill-Lewis and Chris Pappas can get this right, what the hell is wrong with everybody else? And if we have two examples of people who are doing it right, then why are we even bothering to look at other candidates when we've already got people who can go up instead of people who have to fail up?
Yeah, but can I just say one thing? Look, of course, first of all, I would like the mayor of Cape Town to stand up for the leadership of the DA. I think I really like him. I think he'd make a great job. But it's up to him to say, okay, I'm making myself available. Even Alan Winde is a good leader potentially if he had wanted. But I don't think that he was interested in the job because he knows
he blew it. He blew it for me when he was all pro lockdown. I lost all faith in him when he started going on about lockdown and vaccines. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think we should get to a point where we don't rely on the goodwill and the good heart or the good health of individuals for South Africa to work. There are still too many people in the National Assembly, in municipalities around the country, appointed mostly by the EFF and the ANC, who should not be in those positions for the reasons that you mentioned. We should have a system that's able to kick them out. As soon as anybody goes rogue on South Africa, we should have a system that kicks them out and not end up with situations where you have people sitting at home for 3, 4, 5 years getting paid huge salaries, some of them even demanding to be paid bonuses at the end of each year while they're sitting at home. So we have a system that's messed up. We need to look back and say, okay, we've tried this for 30 years. what do we do differently to make sure it doesn't happen again? It's not just about replacing individuals, I keep insisting. It's about looking at what's wrong with the system. What are the checks and balances that we need to either strengthen or introduce into the system to make sure people don't go rogue on us again?
Congo Chris says Cape Town is a blinding example of what South Africa would be without the ANC. And I'm afraid that that is in some ways true, which is why the ANC hates the whole idea of Cape Town so much.
Definitely.
They want people to look away as much as possible, because they've proven in Cape Town that when you can get competent government in place, and of course there's still problems in Cape Town. No one's saying it's perfect. But once competent government comes into place, everything seems to happen in the right direction, and it's making the rest of the country look bad.
Yeah. And especially when it comes to crime, the Cape Town, the Western Cape has consistently asked the ANC government, national government, to devolve some of these key powers, responsibilities, not to everyone blindly, but to those municipalities who are able, who have the capacity to do the job, like policing. I mean, crime is a big problem in Cape Town. Cape Town is still, if you Google, listed as one of the most dangerous places in the world. Number one of the 10 most dangerous places in the world.
Yes.
And the Cape Town has consistently, or the Western Cape has consistently asked the national government to give them more power to do. They know who the criminals are. They know who these people peddling drugs are. They know who these people who are laundering their money in restaurants and fancy places that Joburg people like to go and spend their money at in Cape Town. Some of these places are money laundering joints for the underworld. Okay, the Cape Town people know them. I spoke to JP Smith, but their hands are tied. For some reason, these police commissioners, provisional police commissioners who get deployed into those positions, they come there with a political mandate, not to make sure that the DA doesn't look good, and that's a problem.
It's too late for that. I mean, it's too late for them to try and even hold a mirror. All I want is, like, if you've built a school, like, I don't care, which was that municipality that the EFF, somewhere in Limpopo, they won that one municipality, and they promised they would build a school. If that school isn't built, and they haven't even laid one brick on top of each other there.
I told you guys last week, they are literally 18 months away from the deadline.
Out. I'm sorry. Like, there is just we can measure these things. There are ways to measure the success of a government or a municipality. There are ways to do this. It's not hard. We have a report card. What have you built? What have you destroyed? What has gone well? What has gone poorly? How are people living? Have you improved their lives? We can measure all of this stuff. And if we measure it and you come up wanting, no second chances, straight to jail. In fact, I think it's getting to the point now with this electricity crisis and with water looming that people are going to get pissed off enough that they're going to start calling for guillotines and things. And I'm not saying that that's a good outcome, but I saw it in the comments earlier. And I don't think that that's so unreasonable. These politicians have got to watch out. Phumi, they've got to watch out. South Africans are tolerant up to the point.
They have got to. The tolerance of South Africans can only be measured in the action that they are willing to take. And all I'm saying is, just on this stream alone, just the people watching and listening and interacting with us here today, there are more of us here right now in this moment than there are people in parliament, all of them, including the opposition parties. But given the opportunity, all of us here, to put up our hand, to say, right, all of us, we're going to get together and we're going to tackle X. We're going to put together a fund, we're going to bring on lawyers, and we're going to hold in this ward this particular person responsible. Not 30% of the people in the stream would put up their hands. Not 30% of the people in the stream would put up their hands, would put their money where their mouths are, would put their time where their mouths are. And that's the difference. That is the difference. It's not enough for us to be out politicking each other and out competing each other about how smart we are and the ideas that we have. We've got to act. We've got to act. And voting is not enough. Showing up at the ballot box is not enough.
Phumi, you know, South Africans, many South Africans across the country now are being forced to live, they're being double taxed if you want. So you still have to pay your rates and taxes. You still have to pay somebody to take care of your community safety, you private security agencies or companies. You still have to go to private hospitals because there's less trust of public hospitals, education system, etc., etc. But you're still paying a government with fat ministers and fatter ministers to go and do their own thing. I think we should do both. Of course, people should take responsibility locally, but we should also say, dude, we're giving you money, do something, do what we want you to do with our money. We can't afford to be paying for these things privately and paying taxes to a government that's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's nonsense.
And I agree with Phumi. I mean, you're not wrong. And Phums, you brought this up a million times. To your credit, you've been very consistent. But the fact is that we are not all professional politicians, and neither do we have the time to be professional politicians. That's why we live in a republic where we have representatives. No, but all I'm asking for is basic level of competence. You would not hire a doctor. You would not go to a doctor to have your spleen operated on if it was their first week on the job. And you wouldn't trust someone who wasn't properly qualified to work on your car. Politics is now a specialist occupation. There should be a certain number of checks and balances. Like we expect people in every other profession to be professional. It's the time for amateurs is over. It shouldn't just be a popularity contest.
But how do you change that? How do you change it? Who determines that? While the ANC still runs the show, you can't change anything in the way South Africa runs, Gareth, while the ANC runs the show, because they don't allow you to. It's working for the ANC. Why would the ANC want to change anything? Because it's working for them.
It's working for more than the ANC. It's working for more than the ANC. It works for the private healthcare operators. It works for the private security operators. Yes. It works for the private
by
schools.
default. It works for everybody else by default.
Than just the ANC.
No, but it works for everybody else by default. The fact is, you still need to have a country that says, we've tried this, let's change something so that people benefit more, so that there's more power in the hands of the people of South Africa. The participation of the people in the democracy is a lot more meaningful than it currently is. You can't change that by saying, let's change faces. You can't.
All right. So we've got an election coming up in the next year and a half, and 2 years. What do we suggest might happen there? Because this is where we can exercise our power. This is what we went to the polls for in '94. This is what so many South Africans lost their lives for. This is not some small thing. So in this election, which is coming up, which we have lots of time to prepare for, what would your advice be, Solly, and your advice, Phumi, to the responsible South African citizen between now and the election and on the day of the election? What would you tell them to do? If you could influence 100, 1,000, or 1 million people with your words right now, what would you tell them to do?
Look, I think we should stop trying to the same tool or method approach over and over again and expect different outcomes. People forget that the African National Congress came into power in '94. There was a lot of high levels of heartfulness against apartheid. There were people from the those people who refused to participate in the anti-conscription people. The people from NGOs, communist labor unions, etc. People came together and coalesced around the Nelson Mandela-led ANC to win. The ANC has been carried over. That's why it cannot afford to lose COSATU and the SACP around it. South Africans need to come together again and say, now it's time to vote for a post-ANC South Africa. Let's agree on a number of principles, a number of policies, a number of changes that we want to see happen, and let's put together people who will make sure that when we vote for them, we're going to say, we're going to vote for you, but once you go to the other side, these are the changes that we want you to see. It seems like a tall order, but the only way to get the ANC out is for people to come together. And the ANC knows that the more the opposition area splits, the more the easier it is going to be for it, because then we end up out on the other side of the line with people having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seats, and the ANC saying, okay, you vote us with us here, we'll give you that seat over there. And this is what's happening. This is what we're going to see next year. So we need to gang up against the ANC. South Africa must gang up to move to the
gang up. Okay, yes. But so in other words, anybody but the ANC. So you could vote EFF, you could vote DA, you could vote Patriotic Alliance.
No, yes, EFF and ANC for me are the same thing.
Okay, so in other words, anyone but the ANC and the EFF is your advice to people. Definitely. To people who are sitting there and still don't know what to do, that is Solly's advice today and going forward until the elections. Okay, what's yours, Pums?
My advice is if you can convince 5 people to come with you to vote and to vote the right way. So I agree that we've got to vote. We have got to vote differently. We cannot continue voting for the ANC. Unfortunately, the EFF is just an ANC light, right? We have got to, and by all indications, we are definitely seeing a coalition coming up in the next general election. So we've got to say, who then? Vote for the IFP if you want. Vote for the DA if you want. Vote for, you know what I'm saying? But if each one of us convinced 5 other people, if I could talk to 1 million people to convince 5 people each, you're sitting at 6 million people who are not voting for the ANC, who are not voting for the EFF. That's it. That's what it takes.
Well, remarkably, I mean, you know, we were jumping around quite a lot, and there were some philosophical conversations and some identity discussions and things a bit earlier on, but it seems that we've come full circle because Solly and Phumi are both saying we should do the same thing. Go to the polls, make that effort, convince some other people to do it, is what Phumi adds to that. But both of them are saying, as long as you don't piss away your vote on the EFF or the ANC. That's pretty much the advice.
Look, and there's lots of vote for Al Jamaa. There's lots of people that you can vote for. And I absolutely, so here's the thing. I absolutely refuse to say vote for FF or vote for DA or vote for whomever. The reason I refuse to say that is because different people vote for different things. But what we do know is we know that this far, the ANC has been unable to deliver. This is the reason why they should not be given another chance. The reason for me why the EFF does not get the chance either is because they have simply taken, do not forget that the EFF was started by a disgruntled group of ANC youth leaguers who were thrown out of the party, right? So the reason why I don't think that they are an option is because they espouse the same values. They are the same type of party. So those two parties, for me, their policies, their ideas are not different from each other. Anybody else needs to be given a chance.
You know,
can I
again,
just say this?
All those people, I just want to throw this in quickly. For all those people who are constantly, you know, like, Pumi's here every week, and she shares many opinions about many different things. Here she is being as crystal clear as she possibly can. And so all those people in the comment sections are always saying, oh, Pumi's just an ANC stooge or whatever. You heard what she just said. I hate to gild the lily, but she can't be more clear than she has. If you don't understand that, then you're as bad at understanding things as the people who refuse to vote for a certain party because there's a white person or a black person, or there isn't a white person or there isn't a black person. I can't help you anymore. And maybe it's time you find another show to listen to. Solly, what did you want to say?
I agree, Look, what I want to say is the drive that South Africa needs shouldn't just be one of anger against the ANC. Like, removing the ANC should not be seen as an end. It should be a means to an end. We need to say, what kind of South Africa do we want to build? We need to come again, agree on that. And then how do we build it? There's no way, I believe fundamentally that there's no way that the kind of South Africa we need is not going to happen under the ANC. I've said many times, I will keep saying it. So we need to say, remove the ANC so that we can build a better South Africa. So it's not a means. We're not just driven by hatred for the ANC. We're driven by love for South Africa. We know, and I believe that we have an amazing potential as a country, but that potential is not going to be realized while the ANC runs the show. It's not.
All right, the Tottenham Hotspurs people. We've got 5 minutes here. Let's just talk, because it had to come from, of all people, Lindiwe Sisulu. Is this just a spiteful way for her to spend money that she didn't earn, that she's taking from taxpayers? Is this just a spiteful move to show South Africans how great it is being a minister, that you can waste R1 billion just on some capricious idea, and that you think in some way, shape, or form, South African tourism is going to be boosted by backing a British football team? What do we make of this?
Shame, man. Okay, so there's been lots of back and forth about this yesterday. The Daily Maverick broke the story, and they were clear. I mean, the headline even was "From Lindiwe Sisulu with love," and she came out with guns blazing via her spokesperson to say that the Daily Maverick article is filled with inaccuracies and that they just want to tarnish her good name because of a political agenda. That aside, we're not going. That's not a conversation we're going to get into. But the 990 odd billion rand that is being talked about is literally 36% of SA tourism's budget, and lots of talk has been had about Rwanda is doing it very successfully. Visit Rwanda on so many, but what we're not talking about, and even though they're saying that this is coming from Tourism SA Tourism are the ones that have been running this deal, that it precedes Lindiwe Sisulu's time as the minister. Apparently, they started having this conversation in 2017, but they are quite a ways down the line of having this conversation. There is so much to be spoken about the fact that we have priorities that we should be considering. And even if this conversation was started in 2017, many things have changed since then. And the tourism sector has seen, particularly because of the lockdowns, the worldwide lockdowns, not just our lockdowns, that the tourism sector and players in the tourism sector have suffered greatly. And maybe that money could be put to better use. I think it doesn't tarnish Lindiwe Sisulu's good image that she didn't know about this. Because actually you are the person that is supposed to be in charge of all of these things. And you're just like, I didn't know they were doing this. And suddenly we're supposed to think that, so it's not you doing it, but you didn't know it's being done.
Yeah, look, the conversation started several years ago, but it hasn't been a constant conversation. They apparently, just like the Guptas, if you look at the Guptas, when the Guptas arrived in South Africa, they met Mandela, they met Zuma, Mbeki, there were pictures out there. But then finally they make their hit when Zuma came into power. So these guys, apparently this deal was rejected a few times by SA Tourism, but now it's about to go in. It's a huge amount of money. For all the reasons that you mentioned, it shouldn't go through. I don't trust Sisulu. She's about to be removed from that position. The SA Tourism doesn't have a permanent CEO. It doesn't have a permanent chief financial officer. So they're going to appoint people who are going to find 36% of their budget tied into this thing. We don't do things because other people are doing them. We should, and now people are throwing about a 600 billion or 6 billion rand of return on investment. They need to unpack this. What does that mean? Okay, is it 6 billion in potential spend by tourists in the future? This thing must not happen. The timing is just not right, given what's going on in South Africa. It really shouldn't happen.
Things have changed. I think at the risk of sounding like I hate Cyril, we've been talking about an imminent reshuffle of cabinet. Who would be the person if he were to reshuffle the cabinet? Who would be the people that he would throw out?
All of them.
I don't know if we're going to see a reshuffle. I don't know if we're going to see a reshuffle. It will be fun if we see a reshuffle, and who should be reshuffled.
Well, they're going to replace it with Nomvula Mokonyane. The ANC is capable of that.
I mean, he's got so little talent to draw from. That NEC is, again, a really, really shallow pool when it comes to talent.
You know what? The executive decision of the talent from which he has to pull is not necessarily the ANC's NEC. Any one of those people who are MPs are available to serve the country. This is what, for me, this is one of the things that our president fails to see. He had the opportunity and he had everybody behind him of putting together a cabinet of individuals who were drawn from all the different parties because of the skills that they would bring. So, and he didn't do that. And I don't want to be against the president. I don't want to be against the president, but he's really surrounded himself. He has surrounded himself with idiots.
Well, he made it clear he was keeping the party together. He did say, I'd rather be seen as a weak president than one under whom the ANC is going to break. So he had to bring all these schmucks into political office.
How about the idea that you could appoint people who are not politicians to jobs in cabinet? How about the idea that your directors general also don't have to be political appointments? What about having like really truly amazing South Africans? We've got some very clever people in the private sector. We have some very clever people in academia. We have some very clever people in all kinds of places in South Africa. The only place we don't have any clever people is in politics. So don't choose from the politicians. I mean, he's allowed to, the president is actually empowered to appoint anyone who is a South African citizen to a cabinet position. Anyone. He could go and search far and wide, but he won't do it because his power base then is, board comrades.
The list of people in the ANC of comrades waiting for their turn to eat is very long, Gareth. I don't know how we do it.
Shame, man. And they won't ever get their turn now.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we've tried to solve a few problems today. We certainly got lots of clear and direct answers from both Phumi and Solly. So, guys, thank you again for your open-minded and heartfelt and honest answers. We need that more and more in this country, and enough of this bullshit where people are pandering and speaking politically correct terminology to each other and trying to skirt the issues by, jumping over what is obviously a huge chasm in the understanding of what South Africa is all about. I like these conversations. It's part of the thing that I look forward to every week. Solly, it's always great to have you.
Thank you.
Phumi, you've hit some knockout punches today. I hope that this isn't the last time we have this conversation, but I do hope some of these things can be left in the past so we can move on.
I hope so too. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
Nice to see you, Solly.
Bye-bye. See you in South Africa one day.
Cheers. We'll see you on the Burning Platform next Thursday. Don't